Hello everyone, Linker here. Today I'm going to show you the heroes that work the best in the endgame campaign stages. So this is going to be a very basic synergy guide to get you ahead of everybody else at the stages that everybody else gets stuck on, so that you can plan ahead and able to beat the hardest stages of the game. Stay tuned. So in my main account I'm in 3344. This is an in-game campaign stage. In here you will need to beat not one, not two, but 5 different sets in order to progress. And as you can see, this happens every other boss stage. So you'll have those sets, different sets of heroes that you will need to beat in order to progress. Now you won't need to beat just one of them, you'll need to beat all of them consecutively. Starting from 31-4, you'll need to beat over one set of those boss stages in order to advance. So this might catch some people off guard. You may be working on your one set that you really like, your Chimera, your Gwyneth, something, and all of a sudden you need many in order to progress, and then you'll need to really look deep into the arsenal of heroes that you have, deep all the way down here, and find what could possibly advance you through those stages that you already beat the first comps for. So when you beat the first comp, when you beat the second, you'll need to find what to beat the fourth and the fifth with, and all of a sudden you're running out of heroes. So this is where synergy comes into place. Synergy is heroes that work well together, heroes that enhance each other in various ways. So in this video we're going to look over 4 basic synergies, and I'll just put a quick spoiler so that you can see what I'm about to talk about right here, which are going to be those heroes that enable you by working together to carry through certain stages. And I think the best synergy to start with is the best synergy in the game. So let's just look over King's Tower where I am, and just look over any stage right here, and just look over any replay, and you will see it. Surely enough, this was not pre-planned, but I just knew it will be there. Just the second replay and the third replay, it will all have this similar list of heroes over here. It's going to be Talene, Rowan, Twins, Mahira, and Aziz. And let's see them work in action. Bloopers. Okay, well, I'll show you them work in action. And in order to examine those formations, I'm going to show them in Arena, but just know that despite me being ahead in Arena, this is how these heroes work. So I'll just challenge anyone over here, and as you can see, I've prepared this composition ahead of time. And you'll be able to see Aziz, Mahira, Twins, Rowan, and Talene. 4 of these heroes very hard to get, because they're not factional, you will not pull them, but Rowan, definitely someone you should put on your wish list. Now let's see them work together. And the ×4 feature is great, but I'm actually going to disable it here so that you'll be able to see how this really works. Put it on ×2, just this to go somewhere. And once anyone on the team ults, you'll see those little flame symbols across all the enemy team. This is an Aziz ability that disables the enemy team from ulting every time that your team does it. So this really CCs the enemy team very strongly, and because this buff is timed, you will need to time right your ultimates so that you can pass through. And this is crucial. You'll need as much energy generation with Aziz in order to make him work like you see here. This works at very high level deficits. Quick look at the stats. So usually as the fight goes on, Talene will be the main damage carry, but since I'm challenging here from a little bit ahead, it looks a little differently. This is a very strong burst comp that does work, but as you can see, they nearly did not use their ultimates. Only once or twice will you see them actually use their ultimates, even with strong energy carries like Rowan, because once you have an Aziz on the game, he will cancel most of these ultimates. Now, just a quick look why, scanning through Aziz. What's strong about Aziz is specifically, and I'll let you read this in detail if you'd like, you can pause, but it's this ability, preventing the enemies from using their ultimate abilities. So Aziz goes with other heroes, he goes with Mahira as well. This gives them the Hypogean factional bonus, which allows them to generate even more energy together, which allows them to ult even more. And Mahira also has this signature item which allows her to convert her excess healing into energy, which means that she will ult more frequently than others would allow. On top of that, you'll have Rowan that heals the team. So if Mihira is this mage and she has some AoE, Rowan is going to heal your team consistently with his different skills, especially those potions. And he has many different useful skills, but the most useful one here is going to be his signature item, which is going to give 400 points of energy to different heroes throughout the match, allowing them to ult much faster. Now, a quick overview. Talene, the strongest hero in the game, just a carry that heals and does a lot of damage. I'll let you look at it if you don't know, but many do. An incredible carry that goes best with others. And here we're going to look at twins. So twins, what they do is that they buff their team, giving haste to all your team, allowing them to ult faster. And they're also buffing Talene to really high amounts of energy. So definitely a great comp to look for, and the best one in the game. Second comp we're going to look at is going to be the second formation out of 4. I'll just pick anyone really and have the second formation display. So this is Wilder Safiya. Wilder Safiya, a very common comp to see, and it has different variations on it. You can substitute various heroes for Namora, for Rowan, for others. The point here is that you burst down the enemy with a run. Alright, maybe the power difference here was a little bit too much for you to see, so I'll just put another one on display. But as you can see, Aaron will pull all the enemies here, while Safiya has this barrier up, which will buff your team and debuff the enemy, allowing you to burst the enemy team really quickly. And that works in the campaign as well. Now, Safiya also has her ult that sometimes will come in handy. Lorsan makes it so the enemy takes more damage. Tassi, Leica, very good heroes, wielders both. Leica enhancing all this burst damage that you do, giving haste. And Tassi making enemies deal less to you. Overall, a very useful comp. What you like to see about it is that it's entirely factional heroes, so all easy to get. Aaron does require his signature item to work. He's the essential carry as this transitions to the late game. He does need his plus 30 to freeze for more time, which really brings in those clutch wins. And Safiya is going to be a secondary carry, dealing a lot of damage herself through her ultimate, which scales greatly as she channels this ball of heat down there. But as you approach the late game, you're going to use her mostly for her spectral destruction right here, which is going to buff the whole comp that you have based on the enemies that Aaron pulls. Alright, so an easy comp to get, and this is one that I really advise players that need a second comp as they approach 31-4 and are in a rush to really hurry on and use. And the third comp that we're going to look at is a little bit more exotic. So let's go against anyone really here just to demonstrate it. It's going to be Gwyneth. Now, again, mostly for heroes. Arthur, you could get him through the lab. Really incredible against static backlines. So you're going to see all this backline suffer Gwyneth's arrows at full wrath as they are buffed by Arthur, which we'll look at. Rosaline, which buffs Gwyneth even further. Estrilda, which buffs the backline. And Fox, which is just a utility pick. And there's a lot of flexibility in here. But let's just take a look what happens. Gwyneth charging her arrows. Fox actually banishing the main target on both teams. But very high damage from the comp. Just each arrow of Gwyneth knocking enemies 30 levels and 50 and 40 levels behind her. But she will do the same even in those very late game campaign stages. So just to give you an example of this and what does this look like. It's close, so I couldn't show you. But Gwyneth, definitely a great hero from behind as well. Utilizing her stuns as well as her area damage, having those 3 different passives to work with her ult, 1, 2, and 3, which will help her really scale forward. Gwyneth takes lots of support, so Arthur is what you're going to put up against the place where the enemy is bursting you down and invading you. Arthur has incredible mitigations in his Shield of Honor, 70% less damage, which stacks on top of his aura that reduces the amount of damage inflicted upon all allies by 35. And this stacks. Now, Arthur gets the shields as well while he does this, so Arthur is really unkillable. And what you like to see about Arthur is all of his different buffs. So for example, you'll see in his signature item that Arthur rallies his team, increasing crit ratings for everybody that stands behind him by 30%, as well as the frequency for normal attacks by 50%. Gwyneth loves this, and it makes her spiral out of control and really put a dent in those static backlines if they don't move, with her aura basic attacks on top of her abilities that join them as the passives. There's plenty of utility picks there, but I think the general point there was got across. So let's look at another one. And the last one that I want to show you this time is going to be Celestials and Graveborns. Celestials and Graveborns is a very flexible formation. You could have many different formations actually fit on it, but as you can see, it's classically very disruptive. It has this Athalia and this Nara. You could replace them sometimes with Flora and others and Damon, but very, very disruptive. Counter heal, pausing the time and reducing haste here as well, pulling and attacking and invading. So this is meant to counter the enemy team mostly. It will usually be this way, especially in PvP where you want to counter the likes of Gwyneth that will be usually placed in the middle of the back of the enemy comp, but you could really move it around. You could play with it any way that you'd like, and let's just see how does it look like when you have it in action while I speak. So very tanky heroes, very hard to burst, especially by those other teams, even Celesgraveborn, that's usually an advantage from behind. But those very strong heroes are going to eventually come through and burst down the enemy team by a strong, careless manner. So, of course, you see Feral doing lots of damage here, but if Feral died, Wukong, Athalia, Orthos, all heroes that can do some damage, and Nar with their executes. So, a carryless team, very endgame-like, unlike the early game where you need those carries, but it can carry you through very, very, very far. Lastly, I've introduced you to 4 comps, which I feel like are the most common to see, but we're going to look at what happens when you have more comps to do. And I did not prepare this ahead of time. We're just going to look at any comp that used against a hard stage, like this one, random rolling anywhere here. And we'll see how can you blend those 4 comps together to create sub-compositions that will be strong enough in their own right to overcome enemies. So here, you can see Graveborns, but instead of Celestials, you have Mehira and Brutus. Brutus, a very niche hero to see, but probably, since it's placed on that backline, probably taking that damage from the bottom of the enemy team. So we're going to talk about this Leica, this Fox. Very high damage heroes when they're this ahead, over 100 levels ahead. And another thing you want to keep an eye for is the fact that many CC heroes here, so just like Celesgraveborn, you see Nar and you see Mehira, this amount of damage is something that here, let's see if I can play it, will only achieve if she ults. So we're gonna see that probably come down anytime soon. Brutus staying alive, tanking for the team, and eventually we're gonna see probably the Mehira ult over here, dealing a lot of damage to the enemy team, and then the Pharah ult. Eventually even Nar gets to ult. And this is how this team really, really comes together. With the specific picks of Brutus to survive the early burst, by diversifying this setup and dividing those heroes. Because even if you have those 4 sets, if you have 5 enemy teams, you need to really get creative. Second round, we're going to see something that's very would probably remind you of Celes Hypos, the God comp, but instead of Talene and instead of Mehira, which you'll usually see here, you have Saurus. Now, Saurus can replace Talene in a very interesting manner, and that's because he spirals over time, just like her. He's a strong carry that enjoys healing, and Namora's passive, and Rowan's healing, and all of that, so that he can stack those ultimates and clones and do them sequentially so that his damage spirals up. And if we play this just a bit faster so this gets going here, you'll see Saurus ulting. The whole team ulting pretty fast because of twins, Rowan, Saurus, and all of them, using Aziz's buff to keep those flames up most of the time, as you can see right here. And as you can see, those heals keeping the team alive. just to knock off those enemies eventually by spiraling out of control with the Saurus damage. That if you'll pay close attention to here, and I'll just pause this so you can see it, there's actually more than one Saurus attacking. These are many clones that stack on the damage and get on the heat. And just in the nick of time, the enemy team was beat, I think. Pretty interesting to see. Not sure what exactly happened. But other teams that you'll see is going to be Wilder's Mauler's set. So this is Wilder's Safiya. But instead of the usual Laika that you could see her or Namora both taking on other sets, I assume. Let's see Laika. Actually, Laika, yeah, just right down here, you'll have Zolrath, which is a burst hero that's probably going to deal, as you can see, a lot of damage to those enemies and put on the hurt. So by slightly modifying the composition, it becomes a very bursty comp, making Zolrath deal a lot of damage very, very fast to many different enemies, with the help of Floor Sand that usually supports Iron over there, and eventually taking them down, even though Zolrath dropped. A great set indeed. Lastly, Gwyneth. Mostly like the one we overviewed, just with Laika on top, because it's free from the Wilders. Gotta like this Laika, giving haste to all your comp, and essentially Gwyneth. Placed on the back probably to dodge some of the knockbacks, dealing a lot of damage to this grouped up enemies over here, as you can see, and essentially soloing the whole composition by herself, supported by other heroes that make her stronger. And lastly, we're going to have the other part of Celesgraveborn, actually. This is a very interesting comp to see. But instead of Pharrell, you'll have Fox probably taking a key enemy away with his coffin and removing buffs like the Lucius shield. And on top of that, you'll see Lucius actually take a lot of damage here, probably from Talene spiraling down. Talene and Orthos, very, very strong comp together, and Athalia probably providing the damage while Wukong takes some heat and places debuffs. And yeah, that's pretty much what we see here. Talene taking damage, healing the team, Athalia actually dropping, and now this duo that I talked about working. What? Alright, this is super curious. I think this is some sort of a bug that I'll have to check, but the composition itself actually makes more sense than that. Lilith, fix your game. Let's just check any other comp over here. Anything else? Yeah, so Orthos, a common hero in that set. Working with Floor here. Celesgraveborn right here, as you can see. Dealing all this damage. Orthos and Flora are really strong together, like Orthos and Talene, because while Orthos tanks, Flora is dealing that damage and nothing can hurt her and nothing can kill him. So eventually, giving enough time, they earn the knockout, and this other player gets the win. Alright, so I hope this gives you the general insight of it, and your control over it is mostly through the wish list, keeping those carry heroes in your wish list so that you can use them at the right times, as well as stargazing for those that you think will be necessary to complete your team. Definitely the Celestials and Hypogeans, all definitely in your control. And lastly, through the store, making the right decision in the Labyrinth, in the Challenger, in the Barracks sometime. You could pick the Elder Trees, you could pick those Purple Stones, so it's really up to you to make the best decisions so that you can get the right comps. And with that, I hope this brief overview helped you understand the basic synergy of some of the top compositions in the game. Just let you quick overview of them through this formation, just so that you can see them all together. And I hope this helped you understand how this late game campaign works up to those 4 formations, how you can fragment those formations to get even more sets that you can beat as you go into the late game, and how eventually, if you plan right, you'll have the right heroes in the right time to knock off those certain campaign stages that you would definitely like to prepare for. And with that, I've been Linker. I hope this was helpful for you. Please let me know what you think of the video, and do like it or something like that if you want to show me appreciation. Just starting out the channel, and I really appreciate all the input that I've been given, both criticism and applause. Thank you very much, guys, for watching all the way through, and see you soon.